Well, with that, we'll get started. It is great to see a lot of familiar faces. And Doug, thank you for inviting your wife on for a few minutes, but I see a bunch of other familiar faces. Brian, Caroline, Spencer, Jay, those are the names that pop up here, but I see a lot of familiar faces. So welcome back to our homeowners Zoom meeting. We've had a couple series in the past couple months about specific topics that some of you have attended as well on the Next Level series. You can catch those on our site if you did not have a chance to attend. But this is going to be our more general meeting. It's an opportunity for us to reconnect with you and provide some of the latest updates on what we see going on both in the vacation rental industry and trends, and then also, of course, kind of as we gear up for this summer and the summer with still in the pandemic, what it means. It's a little bit different this year, of course, for the better, but there are still some restrictions in place. So we want to go through all of that and then have an opportunity to answer your questions. So I think we'll start with a presentation, as we normally do, give you a few updates, go through some of your questions that you proposed when you registered, and then just open it up for Q&A altogether about halfway through. So for this to kick off, I am just going to mute everybody just for the presentation portion. And then I'm going to share the presentation to kick things off. Let's see. All right, so here we go. For our meeting today, let's go to the agenda. There we go. It does look like a lengthy agenda. Beta, thank you for putting this together. But I think we should be able to get through this in about half the time here. We're going to go through the trends, go through the updates on travel policy, COVID restrictions, or what remains of them, what our guidelines are, and then go through a few updates on the booking process at the end. So everybody's been talking about, a few of you have already talked about, Don, you were one that talked about some of your best year ever, booking from mid-May through mid-September. We're hearing that from a lot of people, and it's not a surprise. We've talked about these numbers since the beginning of January, how the numbers have been well above any year in the past, and it's exactly what we're seeing. What we started to take a look at, we've been comparing usually to the previous year, but because of the pandemic and because things really sank during March and April in 2020, I'm looking at these numbers as a comparison of this year versus 2019. So what you're seeing is just a huge increase of 74% for the Cape, 50 for Vineyard and Nantucket. That's overall for 2021 versus 2019. And then the other big increase that those of you that have opened up your calendars for the spring season into June, you're likely seeing an increased interest for the shoulder season. And that's what we're seeing, even a bigger increase in our booking numbers. That trend has continued. I'll show you our vacationer numbers that have, in comparison to the last 4 years or so, and each month is, one thing is not like the other. And each month we've seen just a record demand, record number of vacationers that have shown interest in rentals. I'm not even showing the numbers back in the winter, but the demand was still high then. So even though, March was the big month when we met last time in March was our biggest month on record for our 23-year history, and clearly it shows. And even though the numbers came down from there, April is still showing strong numbers. And I would say that even with those strong numbers and really limited availability, most of you have booked out your key months, your key prime weeks. I'm showing here the weeks that are available. You're talking about from really July 3rd through August 14th, 10% or less of those homes are showing as available. And I mean, these are numbers that we don't get to until really the last minute booking. So with the low availability, the demand is still strong. We're still seeing a lot of inquiries. Many of you may be getting inquiries where people are sending, 5, 10 inquiries just because, to be honest, they're probably a little bit panicked trying to find that last minute rental, or what is now a last minute rental in this booking season. The one outlier here clearly is August 28th, the week that school starts. And so if you have that week open, you're not alone. It's dropping. It's about 40% right now available. I will say for those that have it open, I do think these will continue to book. It's just likely to book more last minute. People that are looking for a rental now, they're not looking for August 28th. They're looking for the summer. Once we hit the summer, then people start looking at their plans and seeing if they have availability. And then of course, can they do so with, if they have kids, if that's amenable to them based on the school schedule. So don't worry if that week is still open for you. Many of it is. And I would expect that you'll see more interest as we get into the summer on those weeks. So hopefully many of you are already booked up or close to it. If not, again, I would reiterate that we haven't even hit, usually the busiest months of the booking season are January and July are the two peaks. And so knowing that a lot of people still will be making last minute bookings, if you get a cancellation late, you get a cancellation in June, July even, we're hearing that a lot of people are reopening up those weeks, and within a week, if not a day, people are booking up. If it's a prime week, they're booking up. So I would not worry about cancellations as well. But we'll like to get some feedback from you at the end of the session on how you're all doing. I think now what I'm going to do, Joan, you are going to jump in to give us updates on the COVID requirements and mass travel policy and so forth. Do you want to take it on from here? You're going to need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Well, I think, as you all know, this is not going to be as daunting a season as it was last year. Nothing could top that. And we were all very anxious. We made it through. Most people were just fine. And now things are changing rapidly, and most of you know, especially if you are residents of Massachusetts, that the restrictions have been lifted in many cases. The capacity in situations is going to be increased. The quarantine requirements, it's really turned into an advisory more than a travel order. And even the low risk states, it's not any longer do you have to absolutely quarantine if you're coming in from another state. It is, again, it's an advisory. And anyone who's fully vaccinated, which many of us are by now, and by the summer, there will be more and more adults who are vaccinated vacationers. There's no need to do anything in order to, you don't have to provide anything to, verify that you've been vaccinated. Some homeowners have asked us about that. Do I need to be, should I be asking my guests if they've been vaccinated and asked to see verification? And that's not necessary at all. So we continue to have information for our vacationers, and right on our homepage is an updated list of guidance for our vacationers. Jim, can you switch to the next one? Again, many of you might know that we're all breathing a little easier in terms of the cleaning process. The CDC and Director Rochelle Walensky came out not too long ago with, and I'm seeing this more and more in the news, with a report that science shows there's very little risk of passing the virus on by touch, by touching a surface. So although our cleaning crews are still maintaining, many of them, that they are going to do the same procedure that they did last year, it is not as required to, use the aerosol sprays. And in fact, they're saying that fogging and fumigating and using an electrostatic spraying method, that can carry some risks too. So really, in essence, what they've said is, so good old soap and water is usually sufficient, and only if there is an incident of COVID within the last 24 hours at your home, or suspected incident of it, would you have to do excess cleaning and sanitizing. But other than that, it's just not necessary. In terms of bedding and linens, many of you decided last year not to even provide it or to have extras. No vacationer is going to complain about the home being too clean, or bedding and linens being fresh, and the bedspreads, alternating those, or blankets, as we did last summer, some of us. But if you want to continue to provide the bedding and the linens, that is not going to be a way that someone is going to get the virus. So that's really up to you. But I think a lot of people found that their guests were just as happy to bring it along with them. And as far as clutter, that was another thing that we talked about last year. It was a lot easier for cleaning crews to clean if the home was uncluttered. And many of you took away some things that you may or may not decide to put back. Little throw pillows and touch keys. The vacationers do like the uncluttered look of a home. So you don't want it to look like a hotel, devoid of character. So, just use your judgment. But it's fine to put back those books, the welcome books, and anything that, books, puzzles, games. I frankly never took mine away last year at all. So you don't need to fear that anymore. Ventilation is very important. If you can in many cases, ask your vacationers before they leave, to open the windows, if that's an option for them. And just the circulation, air circulation, whether it's a pandemic or not, it would be optimal to do always. Check-in and check-out times, many of you extended the time and had a later check-in time. You could continue to do that if you'd like, but I would think that cleaners might not require quite as much time to since they're not going to be sanitizing to a fare thee well. You might go back to the usual time. But again, that's up to you. And as always, it's so important to just communicate with both your cleaning crew and your guests, and make sure that they know what the expectations are of the cleaning crew, and know what you have done to prepare the home for them. There's a checklist for cleaners to sign. We did that. That might be something that you want to do all the time. It gives the incoming vacationers just peace of mind that they are that the home has been cleaned professionally, and it's just a great thing to do, no matter what the condition of the pandemic is. Next, Jim. Expediting the booking process. I will just gloss over this, because on next Monday you'll be receiving the monthly newsletter, and we also have a blog post that we've written about this, which Beta, if you could maybe post it in the chat. Many of you are all booked, and you have the contracts, rental agreement signed already. You've gotten the deposits, but you may want to consider accelerating the process. For years, I have done it the old-fashioned way. You know, when I agree with a renter to rent my home, I've mailed them to snail mail 2 copies of a contract that I've signed. I asked them to return it, then then I wait for the check. And that's just not, 23 years ago, that was the way we did it. But many vacationers today don't even have a checkbook. And they get anxious, they want to nail it down, especially these days when, they're looking desperately for a home, and when they find it, they just want to, pay as fast as they can, and no argument with that. But, there are various ways to send the rental contract. You can scan it, email it, and there are e-signature, electronic signatures options, and you can see those in the blog post that we will send you. As far as online payments, again, it's there's Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, any number of different ways for payment to come through. And the beauty of that is that you have the money right then. You don't have to wait for a check to arrive and then wait for up to 10 days for it to clear. And especially if you should get a cancellation, and then you certainly don't want a check then. So some people have told me, oh, I asked for cash, but I'm not sure I would ask someone for to arrive with cash. So just it's a great way to just finalize the contract and the booking very quickly, and that's what vacationers today are accustomed to.
Not to mention that it's better for us homeowners too. I always talk about that. There are so many advantages to us to have online payments.
Mm-hmm. And if you do offer online payments, go to your listing and check that off. It's on the calendar page. Next, Jim. So these are just some reminders. The lodging tax deadline, remember that it was always the 20th of the month that it was due. Now it's been extended to the 30th of the month. So for example, if you have 3 bookings this July and they all leave in July, it's their departure date that determines when the tax is due. The tax for those 3 renters would be due to the Department of Revenue by August 30th. Okay. We are delivering lawn signs free. If you are interested in having one posted put right on your lawn, just go to your homeowner center, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see the option for ordering a lawn sign. We'll be starting, I believe, in May to deliver them, and there's a date by which you have to order it so that we can set the schedule. We're offering a drone video service until mid-August. So if you are interested in having a drone video of your home, again, go to your listing, go online, and you'll see the link. I think Beta, you could send to.
John, we can put these in the notes, summary notes when we send out a follow-up to this meeting. We'll have.
I also just put them
links
in
to
the
all
chats.
Okay.
I just added them to the chats too, so.
Okay, and we've also created, our marketing team created a green initiative kit that you can download and put in your welcome book. And it contains pages, just very attractive pages on recycling, air conditioning, just kind of some tips for your guests about, you know, what to do and what not to do with the air conditioning. Take Care Cape Cod is an organization that deals with concerns on, you know, just preserving the Cape and the beauty of the Cape. And there's a poster in there for that. And the cleaning log where that you could post, you know, at your home, where the cleaning person can sign off when they leave your home after they've cleaned it. So I think that's it.
Well done, Joan. That was a lot of information to plow through quickly.
Well, you know me.
All right, so we're back to, I think, yeah, that was a lot of information to go through. I think just to circle back to the whole conversation around COVID and what the summer is going to look like. Obviously, we know what the numbers look like and with the vaccine rollout. I think I just saw that the Cape Cod COVID task force had a press conference today. Julian Sear talked about that and talked about how we're really in a good position. The Cape Islands is in a good spot with both the local residents of Cape Cod are getting vaccinated at a very high rate, and the goal is by Memorial Day that everybody up to 75% will be vaccinated. We're also, which is a great thing to know, that we're starting off with that base for the summer to start. Plus, we realize that there's such a high adoption rate of the vaccination in Massachusetts, where the vast majority of vacationers come from, or just in New England in general, that I think we're well positioned. The community, the Cape and Islands, is just well positioned, and what Julian Sear was talking about is just, it's one of the safest tourist areas in the country. So yeah, everybody wants to ensure that we have a safe summer, both for vacationers, homeowners, any service providers. And I think we're well situated to do that. The guidelines that Joan was talking about, you know, is only to help ensure that continues. And then the last thing is that Julian Sear also talked about, there will be more guidance coming out, but I think it's more guidance on kind of how to reduce whatever restrictions are in place and whatever guidelines vacationers coming should follow. If you remember, last year, there were a lot of guidelines about going to the beach and what you have to do about staying, you know, every party had to stay 6 feet apart on the beach or 12 feet apart, something like that. Like, I think those things are going to be relaxed even more because we know that outside and vaccinated, you know, we can certainly be less, we can be less restrictive. So good news on all fronts, along with the demand and everybody's bookings. I just think just for the community itself, I think we're in a good shape for this summer. So I think now what we'll do is, as usual, open it up for questions on any topics. Feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. And if you have trouble finding where the raise hand option is, just unmute yourself and chime in when you can, and we'll find you and take your question. So first up, I see Sheila here.
Okay, I have just a comment to make. I know there was a change on our recording response rate to people who had made inquiries to properties. And the concern that I had, and the way I received that was you were looking, it appeared to me that you were benefiting the person, the consumer, the person who is looking for a house, as opposed to the homeowner. Because oftentimes I have to screen my calls. I have to know who's coming in. I have to know if that person fits me or fits my particular place or not. And so I have those conversations, and I just don't want it to look, you know, like so I just wanted to sort of let you know that I've kind of perceived that in a negative way, because I saw it more like, oh, you can promote that, but not understand that as the homeowner, we have to be very careful about who we rent to. And so there has to be a way in which it doesn't look like that I need to be in the driver's seat of that decision making. So I'm just giving you my feedback on that change and how I perceived it.
Sure, Sheila, I totally understand. I think we've had some conversations in these meetings, in the previous meetings, and we wholeheartedly want to ensure that you as a homeowner stay in full control. And you stay in full control, especially when it comes to the vetting process.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've stated at the outset is that what we're never going to do is strip out information so that you don't have contact with the vacationer, or it has to be all entirely online, like through email. We provide the ability for the vacationer to share their email and their phone number, and likewise they can get your phone number if you provide it, and we encourage you to have conversations with them. And so even with this response rate tracking, it's not meant to discourage your direct contact and the ability to vet your guests. The request that we're putting in place here with the response rate and response time is just to ensure that of all the requests that do come in from the vacationers, it is turning into a industry standard that an expectation that the vacationer does hear back upon all requests. And the concern that we had going into this last year was that we received a lot of feedback from vacationers to say, I've sent inquiries and I'm not hearing back. It goes into a void. And that hurts both of us. It hurts both you as a homeowner and us as We Need a Vacation, because that vacationer that never hears back at all from a homeowner, what reason would they have to stay with our site, and because they're not hearing back?
Yeah, but again, I think I see it more as, and I have to say this because I am perceiving it as sort of more for you in terms of making sure that vacationer gets something as opposed to the homeowner. I'm just letting you know that there's got to be some way in which that's massaged, in a sense that I feel like that this is not being, that the vacationer is not being overrepresented. And so I'm just letting you know. And I also think that would be very helpful sometimes to get vetting, sort of how to vet people in a way where, we can share that information among ourselves. Like, do people ask for references? Now, I haven't done that, but do people do that? I don't know. But that's something that would be helpful from the group.
We have blog posts about that, and we could send them to you. But my question for you, Sheila, is, do you call them? Is that what you're saying, that you prefer to call them rather than email them?
I do, because by having a conversation, I get more information from.
Yeah. Well, you could certainly do that. But what we ask you to do is, if you call and you don't respond to that email, of course, we have no knowledge of your phone call. But if you just go to your email inquiry history, you will see that you can just open up you can see there's a question there that says already responded. All you have to do is check yes, and it'll show that you responded. You didn't email them, but you called them. So
as long as that stays in place, so that it doesn't, I don't feel like I need to do something differently.
Right.
Yeah. But I know we could do that this time, but going forward, I don't want to think that there's some major change.
No.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go
Can
ahead,
you hear
Doug.
me? I'm sorry, I can't see.
Go ahead, Doug.
I couldn't figure out how to make my hand raise. I went there and where's the hand raise thing? So, I actually would like to just breach a subject we had before. And I'm very happy things are changing, which is a COVID situation, right? So this has been something that has dominated our lives, has lost people their businesses, has made people commit suicide because they're so frustrated with their life. I mean, so many things have happened with COVID. COVID has been an amazingly difficult time for all of us, right? I have some good news, which may or may not be good news. I hope it is. I just heard that New York City, which I used to live in New York City for like 30 years. New York City, and I was in the arts. So I was very concerned about all the Broadway shows, the Metropolitan Opera, New York City Ballet, everything. And they're said by middle of July, they're going to reopen New York City, which I think is amazing and fantastic, okay? But the thing is Fauci said a little while ago that nothing was really going to get back to complete normal until 2022. So what's going on here? I want to just go back to something, and I know there's a lot of people on this group that I can go bye-bye if you want me to, but maybe irritated with me. But I brought this up way back in June, and I redid the numbers right now, and look at what we're afraid of, okay? First of all, I want to mention that in Cape Cod, by my numbers, there are 11 nursing homes and retirement homes. We know that the people who are most affected by COVID are the elderly, and I'm 72, okay? So I'm one of those people too. So are the people at that age. So we have 11 nursing homes and senior livings, which I'm guessing that's the number. I try to find the number. We have a death toll throughout Cape Cod of 461 people. Now, most of those are going to be elderly. We have a population of 191,247. If you divide 461 by 100,091,247, you get a death toll of 0.002. That's a very small death toll. Why are we shutting down our world for that?
But I
mean,
Doug,
why
Doug,
are we
Doug,
doing that?
Doug, if I may just interject, I think, you know, everyone's got their viewpoint on this. I think and it is can be a touchy subject for a lot of people, but I think that's why I wanted to interject early on about the positive trends that we're seeing. And knowing that we had a successful summer last year, I see nothing that is going to say we're not going to have an even more successful summer this year. And I think with the vaccinations that are coming out and all of Cape Cod, that is the high level of vaccination up on Cape Cod, we're in a good position. So I think to be honest, I'd like to turn this attention, more of this discussion back to the community here that is interested in specifically managing their rentals for the summer, not to steer away from the COVID conversation, but I think most people here want to talk about
I agree with you. And I know I'm stepping out of line, but I want to talk about the human race. And I'm going to stop now. I'm going to stop it, okay? There may be many people on this that totally disagree with me and hate me for bringing it up. But there may be a few that go, you know what? You may have something going on here. Then, okay, I'm going to leave now. I'll be back the next time, okay? You guys go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Doug.
Okay.
We just have such limited time to get everything in, so it's too bad that we can't. You know,
I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on to I see Rich here, but I don't think Rich.
It's Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
I didn't know how to change the name.
That's fine.
So one thing, two quick things, or I'm hoping that they're going to be quick. I'm going to carry over from what Sheila was saying. We actually just put our cottage up for rent maybe 2 weeks ago. And I did get quite a few inquiries about dogs being allowed. And I replied to all of those people and they never replied back. So I'm kind of surprised, because I would think that they would be happy that we are considering, you know, I wrote them back, you know, they told me about their dog and I said, yes, that would be fine. And then I never heard back from them. So should I follow up with anything, or I'm not sure what to do about that. And then the other question I have, since we're new to this, I mean, we had a rental property a few years ago and then we didn't rent it for 2 years. So I'm new to the lodging tax. If somebody could explain that, please.
Sure. Joan, I'll let you do the lodging tax. Just on the response, just as we talk about the frustration vacationers have not hearing back, I know
Yeah.
the same thing is true for homeowners. Homeowners
Mhm.
respond, they provide detailed responses, or in this case, they might even some people make exceptions for their pets and then not hear, or you allow pets and you don't hear back. It's very frustrating, though, but it does happen. And now, because I think one reason is simply because vacationers are sending a few more inquiries than normal, because the limited availability, they're leading towards sending more. And so unfortunately, some vacationers they do choose, maybe they got a positive response from somebody else and they went with that, and then, they don't have the courtesy to write you back, but that does happen. That being said, what I would say is if you give it some time, but I wouldn't maybe give it more than 24 hours, about 70% of the vacationers do add a phone number to their inquiry message. And so I would pick up the phone and give them a call if you don't hear back via email. And so that's just the one thing I would say is if you don't hear back.
Yeah, is there another, on the email, there was no phone number. So is there someplace else that I'm supposed to look for the phone number?
No, so it's not required.
Okay.
The phone number is
Okay.
not required, and it's more out of preference and for privacy. It's just if the vacationer wants to provide their phone number, they do. And that's why I mentioned, I looked because
Okay.
we made it not required, but saw that a lot of vacationers still provide it because they understand that they want to make that connection with a serious inquiry.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And
Joan, do you want to?
I'm happy to have a chat with you tomorrow about the lodging tax, because we have
That'd
a
be
lot
great.
of information for you.
Okay, that'd be
And
great.
what is your first name again?
Deborah.
Deborah, okay.
Deborah, I also, in the chat room, if you can access the chat room, somebody else had asked a question about, it was private. Never mind.
No, that might have been
asked
me.
me about the lodging tax.
That might have been me. I put it in the chat, so.
Oh, were you under Rich? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I responded.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. And I sent the
Alright.
link to our pretty comprehensive lodging tax blog post. It got FAQs and.
But I'm still happy to talk to you tomorrow
Yeah.
about
That
it.
would be great, John. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Next, I have Ellen and then Sheila. Again, after that, Ellen.
Okay, thank you. Last year I listed, I have about 10 in my house, and last year I listed everyone in case I got called about some COVID problem. And I assured the vacationers that I wouldn't leave it at the house. The names would be kept private, and just first names of the child are enough. But now, should I list everyone this year, even when COVID's getting better, or in case you get a call?
List them where, Ellen?
On a piece of paper in my file, and if I get any kind of notice or a question, or my property manager said, I get any kind of a call, I'd be able to say, yes, this person was in or visited with this family for 2 days. I'd be able to respond
Mhm,
if there was a tracer call.
mhm. Contact tracing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
seemed responsible to do, but I don't know if I need to still do it.
Well, I would think you don't have to make that public for all of the vacationers, as fellow guests to see, but you know you have the names of the people who are at your home. So if
Right.
there's any kind of an issue, you can just reveal those names.
Okay.
I'd say it's a good idea to keep track. I mean, you obviously have the primary guest, but some people like to do that regardless. They did it before COVID, but I think, COVID is still here, and I think contract tracing is a wise idea to keep track of who the guests are in your home. It's a simple thing to ask for your guest to send you a list of the names of the people that will be staying in their homes, and that's all you need for
Yes.
just that case, that if something was to happen, you can contact them all.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Sheila, do you have a follow-up?
No, I just wanted to say about that, that I usually email them back, and then I ask them to send me their phone number so we can have a conversation. So that's how you can also get a phone number to talk to somebody who might be renting. And that's always, and they never mind. And it's a great way to start that relationship and figure out if it's the right fit or not.
Right.
No, we always recommend a phone conversation. When we're talking to vacationers, we recommend it. When we talk to homeowners, we recommend it. There's no better way to both establish a relationship, but also determine if they're a good fit for your home. And they can ask questions, because when they get there, if you haven't had a conversation, they may not know some of the things that in the end turn out to be, oh, this isn't the right fit. And it's amazing to me how often homeowners will say, well, you provide me with the best vacationers. Well, the internet doesn't discriminate. It's not that we have different vacationers using our site than another site. It's that I think our homeowners are so good about screening their and communicating with their prospective guests that they weed out those people who just aren't appropriate for the home. And sometimes it's from the vacationer's point of view. Well, after talking to the homeowner, I don't think this is the right home for me. It's, you know, maybe it's not child-proof enough or something along that line. So it's so important, that communication, Sheila, that you're doing.
I also applaud Sheila. You know, I was thinking somebody might say, well, you could just say, well, here's my phone number, give me a call. But what happens so often is they don't, and then you just don't know where you are. So you don't know where you stand with it. So I like the way you said, give me, if you don't mind giving me your phone number so I can call you. It puts the little bit more of the control in your hands so that you can more proactively reach out to them. I think that was a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and we also say, like, somebody that's not willing to give you their phone number is not a serious inquiry. So, you know, if somebody wants to have a back and forth a little bit over email, but if you require a phone call and they don't give you your phone number, then it's probably a red flag for you, and you have done your job vetting. So I've always say that, you know, in this day and age, there is a generation of people that like to just send an email and they don't want to provide their phone number. They're a little more private, or if they send an email, they want to get an email back, and that's fine and expected. But again, you know, like you're doing, Sheila, it's fine to, you'll send an email back, and it's fine to then open up the lines of conversations with a phone call after that. So I definitely agree with your approach there. Any other questions? If you can't.
Carol Maletti, yeah.
Yes. Carol Maletti, unmute.
Hi, I was having trouble finding the little raise hand,
Yeah,
so I direct messaged, thank you.
perfect, we found you.
Just piggybacking on the vetting and talking to people, has anyone started using the Safely service, which also has the vetting in it? And I just wanted to sort of get people's feelings about how it's working, because for me, it's just too late. I've been booked solid for a very long time, and I'm way past that. I've got deposits and everything else, so I don't want to switch over. I might do it if I get late fall bookings. I might try it out and see how it works, but I just wanted to get some feedback. And again, for people who are really worried about betting, I'm personally not. I feel like when I talk to people and email back and forth with them several times, I get a good sense of, and you know, everything's always worked out, but how other people are feeling about using that Safely.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago that we had the meeting. So although some people I've heard have signed up for it, we haven't heard of, you know, and the results or, you know, any feedback so far, but I'm sure we will. And we'll make sure we can get that to people.
There's also a follow-up meeting with Safely. Tori has added to the chat. There's going to be another follow-up meeting with Amanda from Safely on May 13th, so 2 weeks from now. We'll send out notification for that. So if you, and it's going to provide more details. I think a lot of people had questions on the pricing, and a lot of people had questions that the pricing didn't necessarily fit the Cape Cod and Islands vacation rental industry, and so they've made some adjustments. So we'll get more information if you're interested, or if you didn't attend the first time, you can certainly attend and get some more information about the Safely product and ask some questions.
That's great. Thanks.
Sure. I see, I'm not sure the name. I see WBS in the chat. I'm going to ask to unmute if you had a question.
Hi, yes, good evening, and thank you guys for your service and everything you're doing for us. Question I had, I'd sent it over in my email. It's more of technology upgrades on your end for the most part. I think the majority of folks who are looking to book our place just don't read. I have everything in the listing and they just don't seem to read. One of the biggest things though, however, is the rates. And I think that's not their fault. While we have the general rates up there, is anywhere in the back end of the technology as they're looking for specific dates that it already calculates for them so they have a general idea of what the cost is going to be for that period of time they're looking to book. The other sites, VRBO and other stuff, they already do that. And I was wondering if that's something you guys have, you're thinking about version 2.0, 3.0, things like that. Yeah.
I wonder what version. We're certainly beyond 2.0.
Yeah, but no one's reading. So it's just
right.
The emails will go back and forth. So how much does it cost for the, I'm like,
Right.
The numbers are right there per day, but they don't want to do their own calculations. If there's a way they can generally get an idea of what it'll cost.
It's definitely a good feature upgrade for the site if we know the set dates. If sometimes we do allow for vacationers to say search, if they're doing a weekly search, that we allow them to search multiple weeks at a time. So at that time, we don't know when they're booking or when they're interested in. If it's all 4 weeks of July, they're, what's their flexible dates. We can't necessarily quote them there, but we can look to see if they have set dates to pull out from your calendar what that rate would be. So it's one thing that we can look at. I think we've talked about in other sessions, another area of pricing that we will be looking to put in for next year is be more definitive about the additional costs. A lot of homeowners have been putting in their rates, and then you put in other pricing info, which is becoming more standard in terms of people have, whether it's a pet fee, cleaning fee, realtors have an admin fee. Those are standardized a little bit, but they're not built into the rate. And so we want to get a little more consistency with, so that vacationers, sometimes that's a reason why a vacationer might ask, is because they know, they see the rate, they see the tax, but they're not sure are there additional fees. And it's because some homeowners put it into their pricing, but other homeowners list it out. So if we can standardize that, then we would be able to provide an accurate quote. So it's definitely something that we'll be looking at for the next season.
All right, thank you.
4.0.
Yes.
There you go. Very good. Any other, if you haven't been able to raise your hand, don't see the raise hand finicky button wherever it's hidden, feel free to unmute. You can unmute yourself and chime in. Joan, anything else that you want to add here?
Well, I didn't think there'd be time to add anything.
I was just going to say something about in the chats, or what that gentleman was just saying. I know all of us get so frustrated at vacationers who ask the stupidest questions, things that are right there in the listing. But if there are things that are, if people are asking the same question of you, do you take pets or something? I'm sure you have it noted on your listing somewhere, but if you really need to underscore something, put it in your property description. Put it maybe not at the top or something, but put it at the bottom of your property description. No pets. A lot of people do that. So, I mean, don't be nasty about it. You want to, your listing is a marketing piece, but just there are ways to be more more explicit about. I mean, your pricing is right there in your calendar, so I don't really see that one. But.
Right. That's probably one of the more common questions that can be answered on the listing, is whether you have pets or not. But
yeah,
some vacationers are so their pets are near and dear to their family, and they won't leave without them, and so they're trying everything to see if your
well, especially this year, probably where there's so few homes available anyway, And then of those, how many take pets, you know, just even fewer.
I think we ran that out. That was about 20% or so accept pets, so.
Brian has
you have
a question.
Brian, you have a question?
Just a short one. Thank you. I really appreciate the information that you're passing along from the CDC and the state of Massachusetts regarding COVID guidance or requirements. Do you anticipate providing an update just before the rental season begins in full swing, say around late May, early June, of potential changes? I know that it's kind of hard to predict, but it seems May is really sort of the month to communicate with the inbound guests in terms of this is how the house is going to be prepared. This is what we're going to do to ensure your safety. And by the way, this is what we're looking for you to do. So do you anticipate an update maybe in about 4 weeks with the latest guidance?
We've already, the recent update from Governor Baker included the steps May 10th, May 29th, was it, and August 1st. So we kind of know in advance of,
Okay.
we don't expect anything new, right, guys? I mean, as far as we know, unless something really blows up on the COVID front.
I wouldn't think, yeah, and I wouldn't think that there'll be changes that are going to impact what you do to your rentals in terms of
Right.
cleaning specifically.
Mhm.
I think the guidance that's going to come out from the state is likely going to impact how a vacationer travels to the Cape and the islands and what they do there. As I mentioned, you know, whether there are restrictions on the beaches or restrictions in the towns, the mask recommendations while you're outside, and if you're vaccinated. I mean, that's part of the latest updates as well. So I think it's going to impact a traveler more than it's going to impact you as a homeowner. I think if I'm wrong, that the guidance that you have now on how to set up your home and set it up for your guests is probably the way it's going to be for the summer.
Okay, well, that's great. That's reassuring. Thank you.
Sure.
I see an interesting comment on the chat from WBS about having stayed in Savannah last week in a rental home, and they had a smart board by the door featuring restaurants and local must-see places, etc. And he's asking if anyone knows of a company that provides this. While we don't necessarily know that, I think that many of us provide for our guests a notebook of restaurants that we might recommend, and some information about those restaurants and activities and kayak rentals and places to go to hike and all of that. I think that, you know, we always say you are not only renting your home, but you're renting an experience, and that includes the environment and things to do and events that might be taking place. Who better to know and pass on that information than you? So it really, you know, it will make their stay more enjoyable and encourage them to return. So it would be great to include that if you don't already.
Kelly has a question here. You can unmute yourself, Kelly. There you
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Sure.
I was just gonna follow on to some of what Joan was saying about your renting the experience. There's I think a relatively new gal in your office that's posting a lot of videos on Instagram. She's doing an amazing job. And I've communicated with her a couple of times through the app, but being able to share those videos on our cottage Instagram pages would be super helpful. And right now it's not set to enable us to do that. And I don't know if if we have to somehow be tagged or if she needs to open it up somehow, but we can't use any of the Instagram tools to share. Like, she did some series on each of the towns that were fabulous, but there was no way for me to share that video on my cottage page. Like, we could share still photos, but not the videos that she's putting out, which are so wonderful.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something you can look into and see.
Yes, yes, definitely. We have two folk, Jenny and Kennedy are two people that are managing our social media platforms, and I'll get in touch with them to provide some guidance. And thank you for bringing this up, because I think it's for those, and a lot of homeowners here do have their own Facebook pages or their Instagram pages for their cottages. And just as we love getting together with this group here, we love the community that we see on Facebook. That too, we love the ability to share clips, photos of the Cape and Islands, and it's just a way to promote the Cape and Islands to our vacationers, your vacationers. They're one and the same, and so I would love for you to be able to share that information out there. I think it's a win-win for all of us. If you're sharing great content, we're doing so as well, and really creating not just this homeowner community, but really we need a vacation community. And that's our effort when we share our social media, is to share it with vacationers and keep them coming back. So we'll get back in touch with you, Kelly, on how you can do that, if there's a setting or if there's a method that you can share this on your Instagram.
Yeah, that would be great. And especially, like, I live in Texas, so for me to create my own content, I have a short amount of time each year to get up there and
Right.
take photos and videos, so it's super helpful there. The other comment I was going to make about the guest book that Joan referenced, the paper copy, maybe the binder, whatever that people are leaving with information. I have put together a digital copy in Google. So it's kind of a live document that I can update and change as things, restaurants kind of come and go sometimes. So, that changes. And then I just share the link to my guests so that they can go in, they can access it from their phone, they can access it from a computer, and it has all that information about restaurants and, emergency health services, places of worship, activities, beaches, everything in that Google document. So super easy.
Great idea.
Great idea, and love the online version of it is
Right.
certainly a nice feature, easy to access, easy to maintain.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ellie sounds very with it.
I don't know about that.
I was thinking of hiring her.
So any other questions from the audience here?
On the note of, sharing information, is there anywhere on WeNeedaVacation site that we as owners can share a new restaurant that popped up, or an experience that somebody has had, going to a new wildlife reserve or a bike trail or something like that? Is there anything like that?
There is. We do have, we've had for years, a vacation planner that you'll see on our site, and it has a list of dining and activities that we try to keep up to date as best as possible. If you want to check out, or you're in Eastham, if you want to check out the vacation planner in Eastham and see like a new restaurant that has popped up, there is a way at the bottom of the page to submit a business recommendation, and then we'll get it up onto the site. So unfortunately, there's been a lot of turnover this past year, and there have been some restaurants that have, of course, have closed, but then others have popped open. So we're trying to update those as best we can, but it's a good resource for your guests as well. So take a look at it. That there's a lot of information on Lower Cape, Outer Cape for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
To get there, everybody, just so you know, I'm sure you've all seen that Explore tab. When you go to log in, it says sign in, owner login, and so forth. And it says Homeowner Center. One of the options is Explore. You just go there and then you go to the vacation planner. It's a tremendous wealth of information that as a homeowner, before I started working here, I was blissfully unaware of. And it's just, we provide a tremendous amount of information for our vacationers that most of us homeowners really don't even know about. It's very helpful, and it's helpful to us if, Robin, is it, if you do participate and make you can post reviews about different companies and so forth too. So
Yeah,
check it out if you get a minute.
included in that, I mean, I think is also a list of beaches with, and you'll see a lot of people, when they write guest reviews on your properties, they are given an optional question to write something about their favorite beach. And a lot of vacationers do. And so over the years, we have accumulated a lot of feedback from vacationers about beaches. So if you have a favorite beach or a beach that's nearby to your rental, go ahead and check that out. Find the beach on our site, and you can write your own review for that as well if you'd like to give some feedback, or at least just give a list of beaches that are in your area. There's a lot of information on those pages with photos, at the address, parking information, stuff like that. There's that, and then there's another section on events, which we are thankful that we're going to be able to start populating a little bit more this summer. Last summer, of course, was a little void of information, but this summer, we definitely expect a few more events to be happening.
We also have a blog for vacationers that's very active. And Kennedy and Jenny are both posting constantly in the vacationer blog.
Yeah, a lot of it's for your guests. If you find it, you can share that information. We also put it out there because it does a great value for us SEO wise. Helps to draw in a lot of traffic for additional vacationers to our site. All right, anything else, Beta and Joan, before wrapping up?
No, I think it's been a good meeting.
Do we know when we're meeting again?
We don't have anything scheduled, but I do think we will look for either right before Memorial Day or right after, but certainly before the season starts, we'll do this one more time before the summer kicks off, even though I'm sure many of you will have guests started before then. We'll do one more end of May, early June.
And reminder that 2 weeks from tonight is the Safely follow-up meeting, Zoom meeting. You'll get a notice about it. It'll be in the newsletter that's coming out Sunday, Monday too. But any of you have follow-up questions about that, want to learn more?
And you know how to find us if you need, if you have questions, call, email. Beta's always there to respond.
Oh,
right.
Joan is.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
everyone,
guys.
for attending.
Thank
see
you.
next time.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank you, Joan and Jim.
You're very welcome. Thanks for attending.